All right, and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. SMASH staff and I thank you kindly for viewing the content. Let's take a look at the sun. We've got some wavelengths we don't normally show today. We've got some major activity rising in the northeast. We saw some M-class flares emanating from that active region. Coronal mass ejection and solar flare warning remain in effect. Here's a colorized magnetogram. Most of the activity is going on in the southern hemisphere. Major sunspot group here is sunspot 2887. And we've got this new region rising up here. We don't even see the fields yet associated with that. Zoom out to show you the full disk colorized magnetogram from the SDO. Time and date stamps are in the lower left. So here's a wavelength we don't normally show. This is 94 and 171 angstroms. Great view of that M-class flare producing region there in the northeast. Just spectacular imagery from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Once again. So here's a close-up of that area in 171 plus 304 angstroms. That's ionized iron and helium. Yeah, an M-class flare. About 2 M-class flares, actually, I think, came out of that. Here's the southern hemisphere, the most active portion in terms of sunspots. And we'll show a close-up in these wavelengths of mainly sunspot 2887. Just spectacular imagery there. The radio flux has come all the way up to 101 solar flux units. Here's the one-year chart of that, and we can see the sunspot number rapidly rising toward 100 as well. That's a one-year chart to put it in context from Solent.info. The black line's the radio flux, the red line is the sunspot number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard showing us no incoming solar storms, at least as forecasted by NOAA. I think there is a coronal hole wind stream on the way because of some magnetometer data I've been looking at. There's also a tug-of-war going on in the eastern portion of the sun. We'll get to that in terms of its effects on the heliospheric current sheet momentarily. First, global seismicity levels are at moderate. Largest quake of the past 24 was a 6.0 near the South Sandwich Islands. In the most seismically active region on the planet, let's see if this is a foreshock to some additional large earthquakes as this region re-intensifies with this 6 magnitude quake. Let's see what else is on the list here at USGS's site. Quite a few earthquakes in California there. We'll zoom back out so we don't have to move the map too much. There we go. So not a lot to report on here besides that 6 at the Sandwich Islands. Looks like some quakes northwest of India there. By the way, that 6 magnitude quake came in this morning at 5:48 Universal Time. Otherwise, pretty calm, seismically speaking. And we're going to show you a webcam here, but I don't think it's going to work. Chemedia.es. Not working at the moment. We thought we had some webcams of La Palma. It was working when we did show prep, I swear. Anyway, La Palma continues to erupt, producing an 8,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Lots of outgassing. No word on the evacuations. Effusive activity and explosive activity indeed. We do have some footage of it here on somebody's Twitter feed. 1-1-2 Canarias. There's some imagery of La Palma. Some lava flows showing up. It looks like some drone footage, perhaps. Some great incandescent daytime lava there. Suwanosejima also erupting flight level 130. It's producing a 13,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Luitolo flight level 120. Samisa Pochnoi 10,000-foot ash plume there as it explodes. That volcano located in the Aleutian Islands. Fuego producing sporadic emissions of volcanic ash and mild explosive activity. No word on the size of the ash plume there. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, 19,000-foot ash plume. Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador. Sabancaya exploding, flight level 240. Please don't fly your plane over the caldera. That could be unhealthful. Please do visit the links. You can find this link below the video, smashomash.com. You can type it in a URL, smashomash.com. Smashomash.org will redirect you, and if you click on Smasho merch, you can find our Redbubble shop. Get your shopping done early, folks. Get your shopping done early. Today's featured product is Mensa. And the print quality of these is spectacular. When is Fauci going to get fired, or will Fauci be promoted to Emperor of the Universe? Perhaps Fauci will become Galactic Health Secretary. I'm not sure. Let us know in the comments what you think Fauci's promotion will be. And thanks to our international viewers for tuning in. We would remind you all to Mensa, which means to make Earth not suck again. And I'm on board with this in that I'm wearing the hat. Mensa. Make Earth not suck again. If Earth's been sucking, it's up to you to unsuck the planet. Make Earth not suck again. Tell your friends and foes, your science noobs and science pros, about the merch, about the channel, etc. Congratulations on realizing we exist. And help increase the probability we'll continue to exist by supporting us via merch purchases or joining the Smash team. Next, the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days. There you go. There's the last 3 days of data. Nothing too exciting going on there. Those arcjet moments are the GOES thrusters turning on in order to make sure that they're in the appropriate location in their geosynchronous near equatorial orbits. Turning on thrusters creates plasma, which can affect magnetometer readings. Here's the more important magnetometer readings. And there's a magnetic tug-of-war going on the east side of the sun. There was a North Pole current sheet here, and now it's kind of back in a South Pole current sheet. It all has to do with that rising active region in the northeast. So you can see some wild swings here of this blue line. That has to do with the BZ, the orientation of the sun's polar fields to one field or the other, which polarizes the current sheet at the location of Earth. I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but anyway, some major activity kicking up here in the eastern portion of the sun, causing that magnetic tug-of-war. So here's the sun's B field shown in blue, the blue lines there. That's the potential field surface source lines of the sun's B field. And you can see the red and green color changing going on over here. Coronal holes showing up in both polarities, in between two major sunspot groups. Something to keep an eye on when I say ion, pardon the pun. Here's the best wavelengths at showing. The best wavelength at showing coronal holes. It's 193 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. It's also showing great views of filament René up here, as well as these rising plasma activity down here in the northeast. So we did see some coronal mass ejections as a result of the activity in the past day or two. Coronal mass ejection warning remains. Solar flare warning going up to even higher levels here. As we've seen M-class flares, don't be surprised to see an X-class flare even before that sunspot up in this area is even visible. By the way, stereo A is located at Lagrange point 5. For you new viewers, it puts the Earth out to your right from this viewpoint. Earth is off in this direction. I think Earth is off in this direction. And yeah, none of those coronal mass ejections are Earth directed. Solar flare and coronal mass ejection warning persist. So here's the solar flare profile of the past 3 days, and you can see a couple of M-class flares here. Highest X-ray flux occurring at about 2:40 Universal Time earlier this morning. No spikes in the proton flux. We don't expect any of that plasma to be headed Earth's way. It's all headed pretty much the opposite direction of the Earth. Here's a real-time solar wind over the past 24. The past 24. And solar wind density 4.9 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 325 kilometers per second. Basically background levels. Solar wind not as active as the sun itself at the moment. KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is at 2, a KP2, geomagnetic calm conditions. Here's the geospace over the past 4 hours, courtesy University of Michigan. Fairly unremarkable here. Most of the pressure on the non-sun side, the magnetotail side of the planet. We can even see a subsiding of the pressure and a bit of a homogenization there in the past 2 hours. Again, that's 4 hours of data. It's magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Yeah, the plasma aligns to the magnetic field force lines, folks. The plasma aligns to the magnetic field lines. Here's 4 hours of data of geospace delta B, changes to Earth's B field. And we see some perturbations happening here over eastern Canada. And I would remind our viewers to understand the difference between the magnetic and the geomagnetic pole. The geomagnetic pole is the magnetic moment that protons coming from space experience when they reach the earthly area. The magnetic pole is the magnetic pole on the surface of the planet where the field force lines become vertical. Eugene and I did a video about this one. It's called Geomagnetic Mayhem. Smash and Eugene square off. Who's the geomagnetic jerk? You be the judge. You can find it in our playlist. It's in the Terms Defined playlist. Here's a clip.
Map to see where the magnetic pole is.
There's your teaser. Go check it out. Again, it's on the playlist, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. The title is Geomagnetic Mayhem. Smash and Eugene square off. Who's the geomagnetic jerk? Hint, it's neither of us. Next, a diagram of the solar system. Some folks may be wondering where stuff is. How about a 7-day forecast? There's where things will be in 7 days, approaching another new moon. A crescent waning will be the case on November 11th. Next, a star chart. We've drawn in the ecliptic, which is the yellow line, and the galactic plane, which is the blue line. Continuing on to a brief cosmology segment. Today's random number is 66, which is coinciding with a galaxy known as NGC 788. You can find it yourself at the Neil Gorell's Swift Observatory, the transients page. And that is a Seyfert 2 type of active galactic nucleus. It's brighter around the X-ray range than it is in the infrared range. We'll get to it in a minute. These are the hard X-rays from that galaxy. NGC, the new General Catalog 788. Here is that galaxy. That is the X-ray false color imagery. That includes 3 different wavelengths there. The red is the lowest, the green, and then the blue is the highest energy level and the shortest wavelength. Interestingly, in ultraviolet, it is a ring-like galaxy. As we can see, these strong ultraviolet emissions sort of on the periphery of the galaxy, and some strong emissions at the core, and less so in between. So that's interesting. Gives us some indication into the structures of that galaxy. If we look at it in infrared, the other end of the spectrum, this part also not visible to the human eye, this is the thermal or infrared emissions from that galaxy. Great view there from the 2 mass. And let's see if it shows up on pan-stars in the optical bands. Great high-res view in optical bands. In optical bands there from pan-stars. It's Galaxy NGC 788, number 66 on the Neil Gorell's Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. Next, the astronomy picture of the day. It's a flyby of Jupiter and Ganymede, featuring some music. We'll play a limited little section of it here. And I think we've actually shown this one before. I don't know why it's back already. That's the astronomy picture of the day, though, if you want to check it out. apod.nasa.gov. Some spectacular imagery there of the stormy, stormy upper level atmosphere of the largest planet in the solar system. That's today's cosmology segment. Make sure you check our playlists for cosmology segments as well. We've got over 200 of them on the playlist. Let's check charging hazards. We don't see any. Let's check electron flux. There's the 1-year chart of the relativistic electrons surrounding planet Earth. Here's the 3-day chart, and we're at pretty low levels here. There's the forecast. And we saw higher levels than expected. We also see some chaos in the electron belts. Here's a diagram of the Van Allen belts because we're showing the total electron content forecast. And you see some chaos here happening. High levels of electron flux once again over North America. I'm going to let it play through a second time. This shows you the most likely spots of GPS errors. And we're seeing some heavy GPS errors here in some odd locations despite relatively low levels of electron flux. This is the thing we typically see associated with coronal hole wind streams, but we're not seeing one now. It's giving us insight into the Earth's magnetic fields as electrons are only 1/1800th the mass of a proton approximately. Here's another diagram showing you electromagnetic radiation penetration into the atmosphere, temperatures of the thermosphere around solar minimum versus solar maximum, and molecular densities. We're mainly showing it to show you where the F ionosphere layer is located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here's the vibrational frequency, otherwise known as an ionogram, of that portion of the upper atmosphere. It's in many ways the bridge between Earth and space. And we're seeing some significant anomalies here once again, mainly centered around the South Atlantic anomaly, which is over the South American continent now. It's actually someplace around here. And there's the latest image, 8:45 Universal Time. We're also going to show you the anomalygram. So here's the anomaly. That is the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. And we are seeing some anomalous behavior here around northern South America. So we saw some stuff going on right around Central and northern South America yesterday. Once again, some wild swings here in the ionosphere above that portion of the planet. Perhaps it gives us some insight into internal structures of the planet, the same way the relationship between the Earth's geomagnetic pole and magnetic pole do, as they are at different locations. Yeah, the geomagnetic pole and the magnetic pole are different things. Anyway, once again, some significant anomalies here around Central America and northern South America. Also a bit into the Central Pacific Ocean. So there's the latest ionogram. That's 8:45 Universal Time. There's the latest anomalygram from that same time, 8:45 Universal. And another meteorology segment was streamed live to Twitch, twitch.tv/smAsho. Let's do our bonus of features. Starting out with the El Teide Spain ground-based solar observatory data. It's hydrogen alpha, and there's definitely a lot to look at. Looks like they've got some missing data there. Let's move on to show the latest intensitygram and the latest colorized solar magnetogram. No sunspots visible up there yet. This one's actually degraded. Sunspot 2887 has actually shrunk a little bit. This one's still beta class. Again, coronal mass ejection and solar flare warning remain in effect. All eyes on that northeast region. So this is the most active region at the moment. Still capable of producing major flares. There's that new rising active region, likely a sunspot, as it's produced an M-class flare already, and it's not even in the earthly portion of the solar disk. Here's a full disk view. By the way, this has been these blue images here. These are 131 and 335 angstroms. They show some contrasting features, so we figured we'd include that. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody, and may that solar wind be at your back.